The restaurant manager's voice cut through the busy dining room like a blade. "You're fired. Leave your apron and get out." Every customer turned to look. The young waitress stood frozen, her hands trembling as she slowly untied the worn apron she had been wearing for 2 years. Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't argue. She simply nodded. As she turned to leave, something slipped from under her collar, a small silver pendant that swung gently against the light. At that exact moment, a man sitting at the corner table stood up suddenly. The billionaire who had been quietly eating dinner dropped his fork, staring at the pendant as if he had seen a ghost. His face turned pale. Because the necklace around the poor waitress's neck was one he hadn't seen in 20 years. And the last person who wore it had disappeared without a trace. What happened next would stop the entire restaurant, uncover a forgotten truth, and change the lives of 2 strangers forever. Stay until the end, because the story behind that pendant holds a secret no one in that room could have imagined. Sophia Bennett had learned early in life that complaining never solved anything. When she was 6 years old, her mother had died from a sudden illness. Her father, who worked long hours as a mechanic, tried his best to raise her alone. But life was not easy for them. Their small apartment was always filled with the smell of engine oil from her father's clothes, and money was often so tight that dinner sometimes consisted of little more than bread and soup. Still, Sophia never felt poor. Her father made sure she always felt loved. Every night before bed, he told her the same thing. Kindness is the only wealth that never runs out. When Sophia turned 12, her father gave her a small silver pendant. It was simple, just a delicate oval charm on a thin chain. "This belonged to someone very important to me," he told her softly. "Promise me you'll keep it safe." Sophia had nodded seriously and wore it every day after that. Years passed. When Sophia was 17, tragedy struck again. Her father died suddenly from a heart attack while working late at the garage. With no close relatives and no savings, Sophia had no choice but to leave school and find work immediately. By 19, she had become a waitress at a busy downtown restaurant. The job was exhausting. Long hours. Low tips. Customers who sometimes treated her like she was invisible. But Sophia worked hard. She smiled even when she was tired. She helped coworkers whenever they needed it. And she never took off the silver pendant her father had given her. To her, it was more than jewelry. It was the last connection to the men who raised her. One rainy evening, the restaurant was unusually crowded. A wealthy businessman had reserved a private corner table. His name was Alexander Reed, a billionaire known for building one of the largest technology companies in the country. Sophia didn't recognize him. To her, he was just another customer. But the restaurant manager was nervous. "Make sure the table gets perfect service," he warned the staff. "People like him can ruin this place with one bad review." Sophia approached Alexander's table politely. "Good evening, sir. May I take your order?" Alexander barely looked up from his phone. "Just bring the chef's recommendation." Sophia nodded and walked away. She had no idea that within the next hour, her life was about to change forever. The restaurant became chaotic as the dinner rush reached its peak. Plates moved quickly between the kitchen and tables. Waiters rushed back and forth. And then it happened. While carrying a tray of drinks, Sophia accidentally bumped into another server who stepped back unexpectedly. The tray tipped. A glass of wine spilled onto the tablecloth of Alexander Reed's table. The room fell silent. The manager rushed over immediately. "What did you do?" he snapped angrily. "I'm so sorry," Sophia said quickly. "It was an accident." But the manager didn't care. He turned to Alexander nervously. "Sir, I deeply apologize. This employee has been careless lately." Sophia looked up in shock. That wasn't true. But before she could speak, the manager continued. "You're fired," he said coldly. Sophia felt her heart sink. "Please," she whispered, "I need this job." But the manager had already made his decision. "Leave your apron and go." The entire restaurant watched as Sophia slowly untied her apron. Tears blurred her vision as she turned toward the exit. And that's when the silver pendant slipped out from under her collar. As Sophia walked past Alexander's table, the pendant caught the light. Alexander's eyes locked onto it instantly. His breath caught. Impossible. He stood up so suddenly that his chair scraped loudly against the floor. "Wait," he said. Sophia turned, confused. Alexander stepped closer, staring at the necklace with growing disbelief. "Where did you get that pendant?" he asked quietly. Sophia instinctively held the necklace. "My father gave it to me." Alexander's voice trembled slightly. "What was your father's name?" "Daniel Bennett," she replied. The name hit Alexander like a wave. For a moment, he couldn't speak. 20 years earlier, Alexander had been a struggling young entrepreneur trying to build his first company. During those difficult years, there had been only one person who believed in him completely. His younger sister, Emily. She had supported him emotionally and financially when no one else would. One night, before leaving to travel across the country for a new job opportunity, Emily gave him a matching silver pendant. "Keep this," she had said with a smile. "So you never forget you're not alone." But Emily had disappeared shortly after that trip. Despite years of searching, Alexander never found her. All he had left was the memory, and the matching pendant he still kept in a small box at home. And now, standing in front of him, was a young woman wearing the same necklace. Alexander looked at Sophia carefully. "How old are you?" he asked softly. 21. His heart pounded. "And your mother?" Sophia lowered her eyes. "She died when I was 6. Alexander felt the pieces slowly fall into place. Emily had once mentioned falling in love with a mechanic during her travels. Daniel Bennett. The man Sophia had called her father. Alexander's voice was almost a whisper now. "Your mother's name, was it Emily?" Sophia looked up in shock. "Yes." The restaurant went completely silent. Alexander's eyes filled with emotion. "Then, you're my niece." Sophia stared at him, unable to process the words. "My what?" Alexander gently held up the pendant. "This necklace belonged to my sister," he said. "Your mother." Sophia's hands trembled. For her entire life, she had believed she had no family left in the world. But standing in front of her now was someone who shared her blood, someone who had been searching for her without even knowing it. Alexander turned to the manager, his expression suddenly cold. "You fired her?" The manager stammered nervously. I thought." "You thought wrong," Alexander said firmly. He turned back to Sophia. "No one in my family should ever have to beg for a job." Tears streamed down Sophia's face as years of loneliness suddenly melted away. For the first time since her father died, she didn't feel alone. Weeks later, Sophia started a new chapter in her life. Alexander helped her return to school so she could pursue the education her father always wanted for her. But more importantly, he gave her something she had lost long ago. Family. And every day, the silver pendant reminded her of the truth her father once taught her. Kindness is the only wealth that never runs out. And sometimes, the smallest object can reconnect hearts that were never meant to stay apart.